Hey, what's up, guys? It's been a minute. Christ be with you. So, I wanted to do a video on St Irenaeus, if he believed on a pre-trib rapture, because I was on a stream on the channel of the Christian King, and he actually claimed that St Irenaeus believed and taught the pre-trib rapture. Now, to my surprise, because I've read St Irenaeus' works, I was kind of shocked. I'm like, no, he didn't. So the host, Christian King, shared with me a chapter in book 5, chapter 29, and he said, there it is. You could go read it. So I went and actually read it, and it's not actually a quote for pre-trib. Now, I understand that many could kind of see it, but the next line actually refutes that. So I'm going to first share his channel where we were talking about it. Then actually go to St. Irenaeus' quote in book 5, chapter 29. And I'll also show you from the same book, book 5, from both chapters, what he actually said about the church, the tribulation, and the Antichrist. So let me just share this first of all. And hopefully you can hear me in the video. So let's begin.
Where did I put that under?
So you can clearly see me there in the chat.
Oh, here it is.
And actually tell them don't quote Saint Ephrem.
Wait, I just lost it. Oh, there it is.
Because I've actually read Saint Ephrem. And there's a
Okay.
spurious one, which
Here
actually.
we go. Early church writings.
Here we go. Let's see.
Look at this. Y'all, look at this BS.
BS. Coal mining.
Let me switch.
Sorry for the background because there's a storm outside. So.
Look at this, y'all. Look at this.
So this is going to be his claim.
These people will lie and say, oh, this was invented by Darby. Okay, how come Ephraim? This is what he wrote. Why, therefore, do we not reject every care of earthly actions and prepare ourselves for the meeting of the Lord Christ, so that he may draw us from the confusion which overwhelms all the world? Look at this. So that Jesus may draw us from the confusion which overwhelms all the world. Believe you me, dearest brother, because the coming or the advent of the Lord is near. For all the saints and elect of God are gathered prior to the tribulation.
So that's his claim from Saint Ephrem. This video won't be about Saint Ephrem. And I actually knew that he was going to bring him up. If you read my comments, I actually say, don't go to Saint Ephrem right here. Don't go to Saint Ephrem, please. I read all his writings. Now, the quote that he brings is actually a pseudo Ephrem, which was written after his death. So that's why I actually knew that he was going to go there, because that's what all pre-tribbers bring. But if you read 4 of his other works, it clearly says that we'll be here during the tribulation. But again, as I said, this video won't be about Saint Ephrem. It's going to be about Saint Irenaeus. So let's continue.
Finish him.
Look at that. Oh, but this was invented by Darby, guys. And nobody taught this, guys. This was invented by Darby. The quote is right there, repair. The Syrian on the last times, the Antichrist and the end of the world by Ephraim. For all the saints and the elect of God are gathered prior to the tribulation that is to come and are taken to the Lord, lest they see the confusion that is to overwhelm the world because of our sins. This is his work, Repair. You could look it up. The citation is right there. Okay, you could look it up yourself. Irenaeus,
Here we go.
look at this, against heresies. He says, and therefore, when in the end the church shall be suddenly caught up from this, it is said there shall be tribulation, as such has not been since the beginning, neither shall there be. Even Irenaeus taught that the church will suddenly be caught up from this.
Okay, so he's quoting St Irenaeus against heresies, book 5, chapter 29. And he only quotes one verse of the book, of the chapter 29. Now, let's actually go and see what is that quote from St Irenaeus. So I'm just share. So we have here against heresies, book 5, chapter 29. Now, if we scroll down, this is the quote. He says, and therefore, when in the end the church shall be suddenly cut up from this, it is said, there shall be tribulation such as has not been since the beginning, neither shall there be. So this is what he quotes. And he says, see, they'll be suddenly caught up from this. But the tribulation. But if you read the next verse, for this, now in the Greek it says rad, which is an explanation of the previous verse. So he says, for this is the last contest of the righteous, in which when they overcome, they are crowned with incorruption. So which is the last contest of the righteous? The tribulation mentioned above. So St. Irenaeus is explaining that the last contest of the righteous is the tribulation, in which when they overcome, they are crowned with incorruption. Now, some might say, well, this is a future tense, there shall be tribulation. Yeah, of course, because he's quoting Matthew 24:21, which is in the future tense. But in the next verse, he explains that the contest that of the righteous that it will be the last one, is actually the tribulation. Now, you could say, well, that's your interpretation of St. Irenaeus. You're misquoting St. Irenaeus. That's what I say about the Christian King, that he is misquoting St. Irenaeus. So let's see what else St. Irenaeus actually said. So let's share this. And let me just mark this over here. And let's see from where this is. This is from Against Heresies, book 5, chapter 26. So this is 3 chapters before chapter 29, which the Christian King quoted. So let's see what it says in chapter 26. And it says, and they shall lay Babylon. It's talking about the 10 kings. If we go further up, it goes, these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, because he is the Lord of lords and King of kings. Revelation 17:12, etc. It is manifest, therefore, that of these potentates, he who is to come shall slay 3, talking about the Antichrist, and subject the remainder to his power, and that he shall be himself the 8th among them. And they shall lay Babylon waste, and burn her with fire, and shall give their kingdom to the beast, and put the church to flight. So the church is going to be put to flight during the reign of the Antichrist. After that, they shall be destroyed by the coming of our Lord. For that, the kingdom must be divided, talking about the Antichrist kingdom, and thus come to ruin. The Lord declares when he says, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation. So clearly in chapter 26, we see that the church shall be put to flight by the 10 kings who will destroy Babylon and give the kingdom to the beast, the Antichrist. So let's go to another chapter of St. Irenaeus and see what else he says. 1 second. So let me just find it where it is. Okay, so in Against Heresies, Book 5, Chapter 30, there's another quotation that St. Irenaeus talks about. So let's see what he talks about. Memory is correct. It's in chapter 3 and chapter 4. So chapter 3 right here. So it is therefore more certain and less hazardous to await the fulfillment of the prophecy than to be making sunrises and casting about for any names that may present themselves, insomuch as many names can be found possessing the number mentioned, talking about the number 666. So, in context, if you want to go and read chapter 30, he's talking about people trying to figure out who the Antichrist is by the 666, the number of the beast. So he says actually it's therefore more certain and less hazardous to await the fulfillment of the prophecy. So if the church is not going to be here when the prophecy is fulfilled, why does he tell us to await the fulfillment of the prophecy? But if further on, if we go to chapter 4 in the beginning, and you can go and read the whole thing if you want. In chapter 4, right here, it says, but he indicates the number of the name now, that when this man comes, the Antichrist, we may avoid him, being aware who he is. So how is the church going to avoid him and be aware of who he is if the church is not going to be here? So clearly, St. Irenaeus, even in this passage, doesn't describe a pre-trib rapture, but that we will be here, we will be aware of him, and he warns us to avoid him. This name, however, is suppressed because it is not worthy of being proclaimed by the Holy Spirit. For if it had been declared by him, he, the Antichrist, might perhaps continue for a long period, but now as he was and is not, and shall ascend out of the abyss and goes into perdition, quoting Revelation 17:8, as one who has no existence. So clearly, even in this chapter, we see that he doesn't believe in or teach a pre-trib rapture. But what does he say? That when this man comes, we may avoid him, being aware who the Antichrist is. Again, nothing about a pre-trib rapture, nothing about not being here during the Antichrist reign. So there's one more that I want to share, and that's Against Heresies, Book 5 again, chapter 35. And let's see what it says. Okay, I think it's right here by memory. Let's just read this part over here. Hopefully you guys can see this and you can hear me. So what does it actually say? For all these and other words were unquestionably spoken in reference to the resurrection of the just, which takes place after the coming of Antichrist and the destruction of all nations under his rule. In the times of which the resurrection, the righteous shall reign in the earth, waxing stronger by the sight of the Lord. And through him they shall become accustomed to partake in the glory of God the Father, and shall enjoy in the kingdom intercourse and communion with the holy angels and union with spiritual beings, and with respect to those whom the Lord shall find in the flesh, awaiting him from heaven, and who have suffered tribulation as well as escape the hands of the wicked one. For it is in reference to them that our prophet says, and those that shall live shall be multiplied upon the earth. And Jeremiah the prophet has pointed. So again, and who have suffered tribulation, and as well as escaped the hands of the wicked one. So again, even in this quotation, St. Irenaeus actually tells us that the church will be here during the reign of the Antichrist and who have suffered tribulation, as well as escaped the hands of the wicked one. So we clearly see in chapter 26, chapter 30, and chapter 35 of Book 5 of St. Irenaeus, he declares that we will be here during the reign of the Antichrist and we will suffer uh, tribulation from the hands and escape the hands of the wicked one. In chapter 26, we see that they shall lay Babylon waste and burn her with fire, and shall give the kingdom to the beast and put the church to flight. So, how can they put the church to flight during the reign of the Antichrist if the church is not here? If St. Irenaeus was a pre-trib rapture believer. So, even if you want to say that chapter 29, that one verse, let's go back to that one verse that people quote and say that St. Irenaeus was a pre-tribber. It's in chapter 29, and it's this quote right here. And they only quote this part, which I have highlighted. And therefore, when in the end the church shall be suddenly caught up from this, it is said, there shall be tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning, neither shall there be. And they say, whoa, the church shall be suddenly caught up from this, the tribulation, so they won't be here in the tribulation. But again, read the next verse, guys. For this, what is the this? Previous verse tells us the tribulation. So, for the tribulation is the last contest of the righteous, in which, when they overcome, they are crowned with incorruption. He who shall endure to the end shall be saved. So, again, if you read the whole quote paragraph in context, it doesn't say about anything about a pre-trib rapture. It actually says that the tribulation is the last contest of the righteous, in which, when they overcome, they are crowned with incorruption. Now, even if you go to the next paragraph, paragraph 2, it gives you parallels. And one of my favorite parallels is this, because this is, if you read Daniel 2 and Daniel 7 and Nebuchadnezzar, you'll see. What does it say? In the next paragraph, for that image, talking about the statue, which was set up by Nebuchadnezzar, has indeed a height of 60 cubits, while the breadth was 6 cubits, on account of which Ananias, Azarias, and Mishael, when they did not worship it. So this is a parallel for the tribulation saints, for the church, when the image of the Antichrist will be given breath, and whoever doesn't uh, worship the image of the beast will be put to death. It's the same exact parallel. That's what St. Irenaeus is talking about. And he's using the parallel with Ananias, Azarias, and Mishael, when they did not worship it, were cast into a furnace of fire, pointing out prophetically by what happened to them the wrath against the righteous, which shall arise towards the end of the time. For that image taken as a whole was a prefiguring of this man's coming, decreeing that he should undoubtedly himself alone be worshipped by all men. So, what is St. Irenaeus saying in the next chapter of the quote mining of the pre-tribbers about St. Irenaeus? That Ananias, Azarias, and Mishael is a prefigure pointing out prophetically what happened to them for us, the church. The wrath, which is anger, which is the Antichrist, against the righteous, which shall arise towards the time of the end. For that image taken as a whole was a prefiguring of this man's coming. So it's just a parallel story. What them will happen to us. In the same chapter, chapter 29. And I'm going to take it a step further to show you guys that. Let me share this. So this is Dr. Thomas Ice. He's the one who made the pre-Trib Research Center. So Dr. Ice is executive director of the pre-Trib Research Center. So he's a pre-tribber. He founded the center in 1994 with Dr. Tim LaHaye to research, teach, and defend the pre-tribulational rapture and related Bible prophecy doctrines. So this is the top-notch guy of the pre-trib rapture belief. So let's see actually what he says about St Irenaeus, and does he agree with those who take him out of context, our saint, and attribute to him pre-trib rapture. So I'm here in A History of Pre-Darby Rapture Advocates by Thomas Ice. So this is his work. This is what he says. So let me just go and see where he quotes it. So tribulation. Actually, St Irenaeus. Actually, you know what? Let's just put St Irenaeus on there so we could find it even better and easier. I think it's in 3. If memories. There we go. Irenaeus. Let me just blow it up a little bit so you guys can see it. Just give me 1 second, guys. So right here, we have it right there. Some have thought that Irenaeus 180 could be a pre-trib rapture statement, since he actually speaks of the rapture. The church shall be suddenly caught up from this, the tribulation, as noted below. And therefore, when in the end the church shall be suddenly cut up from this, it is said, there shall be tribulation, such has not been since the beginning, neither shall be. For this is the last contest of the righteous, in which when they overcome, they are crowned with incorruption. However, the very next statement speaks of believers in the tribulation. That's what I actually told you from chapter 29. Just read the next verse. When taken within the context of all of Irenaeus' writings on these subjects, it appears that he was not teaching pre-tribulationism. So this is the top-notch Protestant believer of the pre-trib rapture who actually made a research center about it, as I showed you right here, Dr. Thomas Ice. And he says that St. Irenaeus didn't teach pre-trib. And even the quotation that people try to affirm the pre-tribulation rapture by St. Irenaeus, he says the next verse contradicts that. It says that the church will be in tribulation. So again, St. Irenaeus didn't teach pre-tribulation rapture. He actually taught that the church will go through the tribulation. The church will be put to flight in the tribulation. He also taught that those will be in the tribulation, those who overcome will be crowned with immortality. He gives the 3 youths in the fire as a prophetically figure for us in the end. So not to worship the image of the beast. And even though we go through tribulation, the Lord will be with us. So I'm going to end it here because I actually have to go to work soon. But I just wanted to make this point about St. Irenaeus and people who just won't mind, church fathers like this guy here, Christian King. He didn't even bother to put the next verse in it. He just put 1 verse in it, and he has highlighted church shall be suddenly cut up from this, and says, see, oh, bam, I gotcha. No, You didn't. Because as I said, the next verse refutes that. And chapter 26, chapter 30, and chapter 35, and even chapter 29, the next verse and the next actually paragraph refutes that claim. So when you're going to quote a church father, please read the whole book in context. If you don't want to read the whole book in context, read the whole chapter. Just don't take one verse and try to make a doctrine out of it before reading before and after what the saint is talking about. So God bless you. Christ be with you. And I'll see you again.